That millennia from now, when we have all since faded to a dim memory, those who follow in our footsteps may yet wield their prodigious powers against any who would bring harm to our fair realm. The Black Mage is an infamous yet misunderstood job, both in Eorzea and the realms beyond. In gameplay, it's known as a job that's easy to learn, yet difficult to master. And it certainly lives up to its lore, as does the one who created it. This is the tale of the Archmage Shatotto and the birth of black magic. Our story begins millennia ago during the 5th Astral Era. In this time, Eorzea was home to a dozen individual city-states. One of these was the nation of Mok. In their early years, Mok was not very powerful, easily being overshadowed by the likes of Amdapor. Like other states back then, they had an understanding of the arcane. In Mok's case, they excelled in the use of the dark magic arts of the Thaumaturge, which itself can trace its roots back to the 3rd Astral Era and the Allagan Empire. Mac's fortunes would change with the coming of a certain Lalafell, a powerful sorceress by the name of Shatotto. Not to be confused with Shatotto, who hails from Final Fantasy XI. Shatotto is a denizen of Aetheris and Final Fantasy XIV, but it's safe to call her the game's incarnation of this now legendary figure. Shatotto began with the study of thaumaturgy. Very quickly she mastered this art, and earned her sorceress title. But Shatotto was never satisfied with just learning these arts, wishing to expand upon them. One of the ways she did this was by creating enchanted arms, such as scepters and staffs. As she delved the secrets of the arcane, a discovery would be made in Mok which would decide her course, and shape not only the destiny of her nation, but the fate of the very star itself. The scholars of Mok ascertained that a comet, brimming with vast etheric energy, was making its way through space towards Aetheris. Should it strike the planet, it could easily spell its doom. This threat is what spurred Shatotto to dive deeper into her work, now with a primary goal in mind. She worked to create a destructive spell, one more powerful than anything the realm had ever seen. The end result of this dedication was the spell we know today as Flair. This spell combines the caster's own aether with that of the ambient aether of the environment, be it in the air or the land itself. When completed, the spell triggers an explosion of monumental force. The spell, however, was only one piece of her work. The other was the development of a brand new magical art, which would have the capacity of casting such a powerful spell. Built upon the arts of thaumaturgy, these casters could channel the aether necessary for Flair. This was the birth of black magic, with Shatotto being the very first black mage. Shatotto used these new arts to great effect, and was successful in shattering the comet, sending its main body hurtling off into the great expanse. The destroyed elements of the comet rained down on the realm, burying themselves in the earth and merging with the elements of Aetheris, turning into stones and gems of great power. Many of these stones would go on to become the cores of many soulkin we know today, such as golems. The gems are ever sought, even today, for the vast etheric power they possess. With her arts perfected and successfully tested, the nation of Mok would adopt them with all due haste. This would bring the nation of Mok to great heights, standing as one of the 3 great city-states of Eorzea, long after the others had long since faded. It's these 3 states that would later fight in the War of the Magi. Shatotto herself taught the first black mages. She used many gems from the comet and fashioned them into soul stones, with one being given to each mage. These are one and the same with the black mage soul crystals that we wield today. The soul crystals of other jobs are fashioned from similar gems. For the remainder of her life, Shatotto would continue to develop new black magic. She earned more than a few titles as well, often being called Death's Handmaiden, a name that she personally found a little morbid, and sadly one that withstood the test of time. One such spell she created is Ley Lines, where the caster connects to the natural etheric lines of the environment, becoming a conduit and accessing vast stores of energy, enough to allow them to cast spells in quick succession and potency. Another would be Mana Wall. Recognizing her black mages could be vulnerable while casting, she developed a spell that would rob any physical or magical forces directed towards them of inertia, granting them a veil of security. Then we have another infamous spell of Shatotto's creation. Based on the comet that she first developed her arts for, this spell gathers the aether of the caster and their allies to summon forth a meteor on the battlefield. Something interesting to note, in the modern era, long after Mach and Shatotto fell into legend, she was regarded as the one that actually summoned the comet forth, so she could take the magical stones from it. It's likely her development of arts twisted the history of these events, millennia after they happened. Alongside creating soul crystals for her mages, she continued her work in creating enchanted arms, this time utilizing the gems and stones of the comet and the power they possess. The Stardust Rod, a relic weapon we're familiar with today, was first created by Shatotto herself. The crystal on the staff's head is a fragment of the comet. She would end up creating a great many of these staffs, a few of which survived to the modern era. As the years went on and she grew older, Shatotto learned that one day the main body fragment of the comet would likely return. And so, Shatotto put a plan into action and placed a copy of her memories into a suitable receptacle. In her own words, her primary objective with this endeavour was to aid the black mages of the future with stopping the comet. The second goal was to see how the art she herself created had endured the test of time. After this work was completed, Shatotto would pass away at the age of 75. The black mages of Mach that would follow in her footsteps continued to teach the arts that she created. But Mach was already turning down a dark path and sought even more spellcraft to utilise. Thus did they turn to black magic and created yet another art, that of void magic, the ability of summoning forth voidsent to do their bidding. It ended up being black mages that would utilise these arts. These mages that came after are also the ones that pioneered the creation of specialised robes to absorb more aether, not to mention the infamous pointed hat black mages are known to wear. It's funny as well as Shatotto has no love of this headwear, despite its advantages. But it should be noted, these hats and their eye patches were worn to avoid the gazes of voidsent and keep them under heel. It's thanks to her return a few years ago that we learned the true secrets of the black mage arts, that were either sealed away or lost to time. Shatotto's memories would fade away after the comet had been thwarted once and for all. Her legacy lives on in the soul crystal we bear, and the arts which she pioneered. Returning to our line from the start of the video, the arts of the black mage have helped save our star many times. Y'shtola is a prime example, wielding her arts and the knowledge of the arcane in the world's defense, just as Shatotto had wished. We have taken up her legacy, and started to build upon her black magic, and add the next chapter to the story of sorceress Shatotto, the mother of the black mage.